Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the low overtone of my voice because I am feeling a little bit under the weather. Here we're going to go ahead and install the rear control arms on the S30. So here we have two beautiful, fully welded rear control arms. These are made out of DOM tubular steel. DOM means for drawn over mandrel. They do not have a seam welded onto them because that makes it a lot stronger. Now you'll notice these rear arms have a fixed rod end position as well as a toe link position. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble the toe link, and the toe link install is to help reduce any binding during your strut assembly and as your strut goes through its up and down motion when driving the car, it removes any binding from that. Now, the next thing you'll notice is that these do come with bushings pre-installed and new hardware for them as well. So the first thing that we're going to look at also is going to be all the hardware. You're going to have two of these 9-inch long spindle pin bolts. You'll have two of these hex adjusters. Now, one thing you'll notice is there's a little notch or groove cut into them. That's to signal the left-hand side to make for easily toe adjustment. You'll have a stack of these 4 5/8 washers, followed by 16 of these 5/8 washers. Now, these are going to be used for your wheel centering or your caster. Next, you're also going to have a pair of these 5/8 nuts, along with a pair of these 5/8 jam nuts. And finally, you'll also have a pair of these 5/8 spherical joints. You're going to have a set of adjustable wrenches, a ratchet, and a 15/16 socket. Now, the one thing to note is you want the sway bar mount on the top position, and then you're going to expose your toe link setting. You're going to go ahead and thread in your hex adjuster onto the toe link. And once you have that threaded on there, you're going to go ahead and thread the 5/8 jam nut onto your spherical joint. Now, one thing to note is this toe link now comes pre-assembled from our warehouse as part of our QC check and design process. This way we ensure that the threads are pre-installed correctly with anti-seize rather than having the customer worry about that. But in this video, this at least allows you to see how these go together. And then we're going to go ahead and install the spindle pin. We're going to go ahead and put a 5/8 washer on one side. We're going to bring one of the stack of caster washers or wheel centering spacers, followed by another 5/8 washer onto the other side, and then with a 5/8 nylon lock nut. So now we're going to go ahead and take a quick peek at the H-frame design versus our A-frame design. Now, our A-frame design is a lot more modern and allows you to have an adjustable toe link compared to the original H-frame design. So with the original H-frame design, if you had any shift or strut misalignment, they would cause the strut to bind and cause the seals to wear out prematurely, versus our toe link allows any and all articulation to be installed and had within the control arm itself. So the control arm now removes the binding on the strut and allows this fixed rod end to take the load, as well as the toe link to transfer any misalignments on toe as the suspension moves through its travel. Then you'll have these washers, and these washers stack either on one side, split in the middle, or on the other side, and that's to allow caster adjustment on your strut, also known as wheel centering in your wheel arch. You notice these older Zs are notorious for having the wheel very forward into their wheel well. Our rear control arms allow you to move the wheel about 1 inch further back than the factory would allow. So first thing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pop the original strut off of the rear control arm. So the spindle pin is usually a pain in the butt to originally remove, but here we just had it held in place by the bolt. You guys should definitely refer to how to remove the original spindle pin if you're having trouble, as it is quite cumbersome. So once we had the original rear control arm removed, we're gonna go ahead and put our new one on there. And we're not gonna have a in-depth video on how to remove the rear control arm, but you can see here we have it loosened up, and you pretty much remove the bolts on the front and then the bolts on the dog legs, and you should be able to pull that rear arm out. So once you have the original rear arm removed, we're gonna go ahead and install ours pretty much in the same reverse order. Now, what you could do is you should remove or slightly loosen the bolts on the top and the back of the bushings, and that's just so you're able to have the bolts and the bushings loose when installing, and once your clamps are tightened down in there, then you can go ahead and reapply and reinstall and torque down the bushings. But in this video, we're just gonna go ahead and put this clamp on. And so now that we have the rear control arm installed to the car, we're gonna go ahead and mate the rear control arm to the knuckle itself. So we're just gonna go ahead and pull the spindle pin out and then reinstall it from the back here, and then followed by the nut just to hand tighten it. Now you can see we didn't put any washers in between this, and this is where we want to show how it goes. So you can see I have a stack of washers. Now if you place it towards the back, it would move the knuckle forward like so, bringing it closer to the front of the wheel arch. But if you removed all the washers and put them in the front, which most customers will do because you want to be able to move the knuckle back or your wheel further back in the arch, put the washers in the front of the knuckle. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do real quick. We're going to go ahead and pull the spindle pin back slightly. We're going to go ahead and put those washers in the front, followed by reapplying that toe link. And from there, you'll notice that here we have really easy toe adjustment by just doing it on the car, as well as you're able to move your wheel further out and towards the back. Now these rear control arms do have some camber adjustment. You have about a 1/2 inch of camber adjustment going outwards. So that would be considered negative camber that you're able to increase the track width by. And you do have a little bit of that 1/2 inch on each side, forward and back caster adjustment, as well as toe adjustment. So you do have 3 sets of adjustment on these rear control arms. So you'll go ahead and torque all the nylon lock nuts to 55 foot-pounds and these 2 rear bushing mounts to 155 foot-pounds per the OEM manual. Now you go ahead and take a look at that shot. Now notice the sway bar position on the rear arms, and that's all we have for install. Give us a call or email us if you have any questions. Like and subscribe.